Welcome, everybody, to the Crushin College Podcast, a new podcast sponsored by Campfire Series to interview college athletes and just college people in general, figure out how they balance their craft and their schoolwork. Because in college, you still got to get a degree and you still got to get good grades. My name is Logan Sofranco, the host, and for our first episode, we have a very awesome interview with Cal Lutheran baseball player Gregory Pimentel. We hope you enjoyed this interview, but also we encourage you to follow us on social media at Crushin College Podcast and to subscribe to us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, follow us on Spotify, and follow us on our SoundCloud. We are going to keep it up, and it's going to be awesome. But without further ado, let's get to our first episode with Gregory Pimentel.
I mean, I've listened to a couple of your podcasts before, like the one with Joe Davis, so pretty excited to hop on here.
Oh, cool. I'm glad you liked that. Man, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I pulled that one up the other day, and I was like, holy crap, that was in May of last year.
Yeah. I think I saw that like on your Instagram or something, and I went back and I like listened to it. It was pretty sweet.
Well, I'm glad you liked it, man. Well, yeah, I decided to start another segment and just chat with some college athletes. And you know, you play ball. You went to Moorpark, right?
Yeah, Moorpark High School.
Pretty good program over there, right?
Yeah, not too shabby, I'd say.
So let's start there. Going to Cal Lutheran in Thousand Oaks, it's relatively close to Moorpark High School. What was your time like at Moorpark? Did you get how many years were you on varsity for?
Played 2 years of varsity baseball at Moorpark, junior and senior year. I two-wayed, so I was pitching and like infield loose.
Okay, so you got a little bit of power.
I do have a little bit of power.
So, being a two-way player, are you a two-way player at Cal Lu? Like, position and pitching?
No, these past 2 years, I've just been focusing strictly on pitching. I feel like that was probably for the best because I feel like in high school, I was stretching myself too thin in terms of like recovery and like my arm and stuff. So I feel like just pitching was the best way to go about it.
How fast were you chucking it in high school?
I'd say like low to mid 80s. And I'd say I'm pretty similar here in college. Maybe like, I think the fastest I've thrown at Cal Lu is probably like 85, which is like about average, I'd say, at this level.
Yeah. So are you throwing bullpen or starting? What's been the deal with that?
A lot of bullpen work, yeah. I mean, high school I was more of a starter, but definitely moved over to the pen here at Cal Lu. Got a lot of arms here to compete with, so just trying to
for sure
make my way through.
But have you ever been in a pretty tense? I mean, obviously, Cal Lutheran D3 national champions in 2017, so it's a good program. You come into some hostile situations, I assume, as a bullpen arm. But have you ever had that experience at Cal Lu yet?
To be honest, not yet because season was cut a little short last year. So now playing time is a little tight, but hopefully soon this year maybe we'll definitely get some opportunities for that.
When did you start in high school developing your pitching arsenal? You know, having your changeup and whatever it may be. I don't know what you throw, a changeup, a cutter. What kind of stuff do you throw in high school, and how did it change in college?
I mean, in high school, like our head coach was like really big on off speed and like developing guys like in their repertoire from day one. So I'd say about high school is when I started developing all that. And then in terms of like pitches and stuff, I would have like a four seam and then like a sinker, change up, and a slider. But sometimes a curveball is something I'm working on here in college just to give me that extra little boost. So I'd say that right there.
And I feel like, I don't know if it's just me, but especially in the majors, there's not many bullpen guys who have a really dynamic curveball. You think of guys like Kenley Jansen or Oldest Chapman. You think of the big closers. They got, sometimes cutters and sinkers, but mainly it's their fastball. But 85, you're not throwing 103. That's pretty hard to do. So walk me through how important placement is of your pitches, because I assume when you're throwing 85 as your fastball and then you bring in a little bit of the off speed, your placement is just absolutely crucial. And also, how crucial is placement in the zone for college coaches? When they look at you in high school, they say, oh, this guy's hitting his spots. We got to get a fastball down and in. Oh, he's throwing that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely spotting up. And I'd say even bigger than like spotting up is sequencing, especially for a guy like me. I can't just go 98, 97 fastballs and blow guys away. I got to pitch backwards and throw every pitch for a strike. So I feel like that's definitely one of my biggest strengths, being able to throw every pitch for a strike, because I feel like that's key, especially at this level. Guys definitely are aware of like when to sit on certain pitches and stuff. But yeah, definitely placement is key, and just not falling behind. That's definitely like the biggest jump from high school to college is the strike zone. Definitely like the high school umpires versus college umpires, super tight zone, I'd say here.
So when it comes to falling behind in counts, you're down 3-1, you're down 3-0, 2-0, whatever it may be. What do you do to lock in to get back in the rhythm to start? Hey, I actually got to attack now and get this batter out.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things for myself, I would just be like, take a deep breath, step back, refocus, and then just go through like some cues in my head and what I can do to execute the best pitch I can. But, I mean, in that case, just not fall behind. That's the easiest way to go about it, but definitely.
What were some other schools you were getting looked at by in high school?
Yeah, some other schools I was being recruited by was University of Puget Sound in Tacoma, Washington, and some other high academic schools like Johns Hopkins. But Cal Lu just made the most sense in terms of like academic and athletics, and it was close to home, so I can't complain. I love being in Ventura County. There's really nowhere else I want to be. So.
Well, that's good though. That close to home. I feel like for me especially, because people don't know I attend Cal Lu too, and I think that being close to home is just so crucial, and especially in times like these, even though you're living on campus. But obviously that does play a factor in choosing, your colleges. But also, was it also a factor of, hey, I'm actually going to have a spot at Cal Lu, or was it going to be that case for all the schools you were getting looked at?
Yeah, it was actually kind of the opposite. I knew I was going to have to like maybe wait a couple years here at Cal Lu to get some like opportunity, like playing time. But I knew it would be worth it. I'd say maybe like this time next year, hopefully I'd be like taking on a much bigger role than this year. And then like every year that, just keep growing my role. But I mean, one of the biggest things was obviously financial aid here at Cal.
Oh, for sure.
A really good package. I feel like a lot of students can agree with that financial aid is like really important here, especially for the academics that they provide. Being able to afford that was really important when it came down to my college decision.
And especially in times like these when, you're not getting the education you thought you were getting. But you had last year, you had a little bit, then you got cut off. But you're a sophomore at Cal Lu, correct?
That's right.
So you had a little bit of, time to normalize Cal Lu, but now you're in this new platform. But yeah, finances is absolutely big. It's big. The reason why I went to Cal Lu, and big reason why, like you said, a lot of people, it's very generous here at Cal Lu with the financial aid stuff. So now we're heading back to high school again. Were you ever in some playoff scenarios? Maybe not you specifically, but I didn't really follow Moorpark because I went to Village Christian. I went to, we're in the Olympic League. We don't really pay attention to the Thousand Oaks areas. We didn't play you guys too much. But was there ever some high tense situations in high school?
Oh, for sure, definitely. I mean, our junior year, because we had come off our sophomore year, a really strong year. Like our juniors and seniors were really good, whereas our junior year, we weren't as good, to be honest. So we were placed in D1 for CIF. So, I mean, we had a solid year. We finished third in the Coastal Canyon with like Camarillo, Simi, all those good teams. But we got matched up with Notre Dame. So we had to go, we played Notre Dame at home. And we actually did beat them. That was the year they were ranked number 1 in the country by Baseball America.
Was that 2017?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Was that back when I think they had Hunter Green, they had Grant Berman, they had a bunch of studs at Notre Dame.
They didn't have Hunter Green that year. I think it was the year after he graduated.
Oh, for sure.
But they had some other guys like Lucas Gordon and just some absolute stuff.
That dude is filthy.
Yeah, he is an unreal guy. But so we played them. We actually knocked them off at home. So then the following game, we had to go on the road to Orange Lutheran, and I got to start that game. I'd like to say I held my own pretty well. It was like, I think we lost 2-0 on the road to a pretty tough OLU team. And they had their own little guy, not a little guy, but Cole Wynn. He got picked up in the first round, I think 16th overall by the Rangers. So he's pretty legit.
Well, I think that, making a good baseball career in college, you have to have not just high tense scenarios in high school, but you have to face those kind of schools and lose. Like, it's unfortunate, like 2-0 as a start. Like, you lost 0-2 that game, but you said you held your own pretty nicely. And
Mhm.
sometimes the offense just doesn't provide, and that's what's so frustrating. You look at really good pitchers in the MLB. You look at Jacob deGrom, who won back-to-back Cy Young awards. It's not because of his wins and losses, it's because of his ERA, because what he allowed. But now you're in college, and what's your major?
I'm double majoring in political science and criminal justice.
And criminal justice, pretty good program at Cal Lu. So
Yeah.
now, obviously, this podcast, the one we're calling, it's called the Crushin College Podcast. You're obviously, you got to find ways to crush college. Getting the grades are obviously top priority, because student athletes is the terminology we use to describe baseball players like yourself. So how do you manage the practice and the work? Me personally, being a freshman, I don't know the routine because I haven't lived on campus yet. So you had to have developed a little bit of a routine back when it was normal time, and now you have to have one which is a little bit different. We'll talk a little bit about what you're doing for practices and to stay in shape in these times. But how do you balance it out as a student athlete?
No, it is harder than people make it look. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
It's a daily struggle. Every day is a new challenge. That's for sure. How do I balance it? I'd like to just say that I don't. I just, try and survive and advance every day. Get as much done as I can. Time management is key. I mean, this COVID year has definitely provided me with a little more time, so it's been less stressful than I'd say last year. And especially since it's online, there's a lot more leniency. But, it's a lot of work, no doubt. So
I think what's really, at least for me as a factor, and I feel like a lot of people can relate, but maybe not you, because I'm living at home. But when you're not living at home, you don't have to worry about doing the family chores or maintaining the house or doing stuff like that. It's your time. Obviously, you have to do your thing to make sure your dorm room looks clean and to make sure you have food and go to Ullman and get your dinner.
mhm.
But I feel like you have a little bit more freedom to do your work, because that's just a point of college, that you have more free time. But also, yeah, it's just in general, no matter how much free time you have, balancing it is just hard. So with that being said, I commend you for taking on two bachelors in criminology and political science. Those are just big majors. So tell me a little bit about how does that ever you know take over you when you're doing baseball? Like, do you ever have a different mind now that you're taking those kind of classes? Like, did you envision in high school you were going to take political science and learn about criminology and all that stuff?
Oh gosh, I had no idea that I'd end up here. I came into Cal thinking I was going to be a history teacher and I was going to, change the
Oh,
world as a
dang.
teacher, but it just didn't work out. I don't know if you know anything about the history department here at Cal Lutheran. They
Oh
are
my goodness.
pretty tough. A lot of
Oh
writing,
my
a lot
god.
of research. But I mean, so I just ended up doing like undeclared after my first semester because I just wasn't sure what I wanted to do. It was a really big adjustment for me. I kind of struggled. Like I was like a 4.0 student in high school, all that stuff. And then I just, kind of struggled that transition. But then I found like two classes that I love, like crim and political science. So it's like, why not do both? Like these are really passionate, like, and I don't get tired of it. I feel like that's the big thing. I feel like I could do this for like a long time. So
We'll talk a little bit about history because I got something to say about that. But especially in times like these, criminology is, or not, beg your pardon, political science in stuff like this, when politics are so hot and you want to learn the way of politics, it's kind of inspiring and kind of intriguing when you think about taking political science classes. But yeah, the history, man. I made the mistake of taking a history class first semester, and I started messaging a bunch of sophomores, and I was like, hey, have you had history like 110 or whatever it was? And like, no, I got the same response from 6 kids I DM'd. And they all said, oh no, Cal Lu's history program is a little hard. We're taking them at Moorpark College. And I was like, oh my gosh.
yeah.
But it's pretty funny hearing you saying that as well. But now we're in COVID years. what do you do to stay in shape? Obviously, I know the FCC gym has kind of been opening and closing and doing it outdoors, and people working out off campus. So what are you doing to stay in shape? Because I know right now I've gained the COVID-19, if you will.
Yeah, no,
not in the good way. Not in the workout way.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel like everyone's had their own struggles with finding like places to work out, especially like because there's been like some inconsistency with the Cal gym and just like in general, gyms are open and then they close. So just trying to be as flexible as you can. So I think one of the things I've been working on this offseason is my speed. There's the gym closing down won't shut down speed training. You can go to a park and just get sprints in. So I feel like that's been one of the biggest things that I've been doing to try and stay in shape, but also just lifting, like investing in like a gym when it's open and just trying to stay ready as much as possible.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like the thing that people don't realize about pitching is that, it's always constant arm workouts. It's constant shoulder workouts. No, you use your hips in baseball. Use your hips. You use your legs. You got to work your whole body out. Mm-hmm. So commend you for taking the initiative and doing stuff at a park, because people don't realize that there are those opportunities. But now you obviously, I don't know how much access you have to the baseball field at your university, but do you ever go out there and maybe throw a couple of bullpens with some of the guys?
For sure. I mean, in the fall and like a little bit of the spring so far, I'd like to say about that like 5 days a week, just getting throws in, like some drive line, like plyo balls and J-bands, just trying to keep the arm as ready as we can right now.
Now, what about watching baseball in this past 2020 season? And just obviously you're a student of not just criminology and political science. You're a student of baseball. So when you're watching ball, who's your team, if I may ask?
Oh, it's the Dodgers, no doubt.
There you go. So it was a good season for you guys. So do you watch them and their decision making as a baseball player and learn from them?
Oh yeah.
And maybe sometimes see things you don't like and say, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do what happened in the Brett Phillips walk-off in the World Series. I don't want to have 2 errors. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I am Dave Roberts' biggest critic. I mean, I'd like to say I came pretty close this year because it was a 40 or 60 game season. I wanted to watch every single game. Came a little short, but it was still a lot of fun watching the boys. They had a great year. But definitely a lot to learn from some of the best players in the world. I mean, just the little things they do and just picking up on that. And then just not even the Dodgers, like sitting down and watching film on other like Major League Baseball players. Like one of the guys I like to emulate is Sonny Gray, just because of his stature. Like we're pretty similar in stature and height. So just like the way he moves down the hill and how efficiently he moves, I feel like watching film on that and just trying to emulate like the little things they do to be like professionals. I feel like that's key to learning about the game and stuff like that.
I also feel that when you're watching not just baseball, but any sport, when you're listening to the broadcast, this is my nerdy side come in, you have the color commentator. So if you're watching the Dodgers games, you have Oral Hershiser. And watching and listening to the game, you learn from the announcers. Not necessarily like the Joe Davises, but the color guys who, they played the game. They know about it. So do you sometimes learn from them? And let's say if it's the World Series, you're learning from John Smoltz. He was a very big pitcher. Mm-hmm. So he has a lot to share about calling games in the World Series.
No, yeah, for sure. I love Oral's take, especially on like pitching, especially like the way he talks about like sequencing and stuff and like how to go about, like when to do certain things, like when to not. I'd say he's pretty similar like Tony Romo. He knows a lot and like he's able to like predict certain things and stuff like that. Whereas like Joe Davis is like, I just like his voice, I don't know if it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I feel that Oral Hershiser he's a very smart man about baseball. And I think that any broadcast team that can bring people in to teach ball players like yourself and ball players across the country, every ball player has the same 24. That's what my high school coach told me. You have the same 24 hours in a day as the other person and as everybody in the world. It's just a matter of what you do with them. So it looks like you've been making good time about it. So what's the future for the season? Are you guys going to have one? What's it looking like?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely still up in the air. I mean, there's a lot of work that needs to be done in terms of like paperwork. I know a lot of guys are still behind on that. I'm still behind on that. Like it's been a lot, like instead of like a normal year, like in terms of liability and things like that. So we're supposed to start next week on the 15th, but now that's been pushed back to March 2nd, which is our tentative date. But, you know, we could start sooner, we could start later. It's really still up in the air.
It's all up in the air, and that's just what the general theme is right now.
Mm-hmm.
But with that being said, any last thoughts you want to leave on the table just as a student athlete about just anything you have to share?
Yeah, I mean, with the uncertainty, I mean, there's only so much you can control. So one of the things I really control is just keep getting better every day as a student and as an athlete, you know, just doing everything I can. You know, if there's not a season this year, it's going to be next year. So just getting ready for whatever comes next. So.
I like that, getting ready for whatever comes next. Greg, thank you so much for agreeing to be my first guest on this new segment. And, you know, it sounds like you got everything under control, or even though you're telling us that, you know, doing the school and playing sports, sometimes it gets hard to balance everything, but that's just natural. That's life. But it sounds like you are figuring out what you have to do, and you're staying in shape for whenever you do get the call, and that's what the best athlete does. So appreciate you doing that, and I appreciate you sharing some words. And, you know, we've never met face-to-face. We chatted a few times on DM, so it's nice to put a face to, you know, what I see on the text. So
Sure.
With that being said, I hope to see you on campus sometime soon.
Yeah, me too.
And stay safe out there and enjoy whatever you can living on campus. I know it's a ghost town out there, but, you know, try your best to have fun and be safe and smart.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. It was a pleasure.